If you're happy that there are 11,000 workers in the Hydro bureaucracy making $100,000 a year more, if you think that's reasonable, then vote Liberal. But I think talking to the team here at Stampak, they don't think that $100,000 salary is $11,000 on Hydro and you pay the bill. That's not a good deal. I'll change that.
Ontario PC leader Tim Hudak speaking today in Smithville. Hudak has promised to reduce the number of public sector workers in Ontario by 100,000 if he wins the election. The latest poll numbers put his party ahead of the Liberals and the NDP. Sun News contributor and New Democratic booster Adam Giambrone joins us from Toronto. Adam, you got to feel bittersweet about this latest poll. I think you agree with me. The best thing to come out of this election could be my hashtag #FireWin. But Hudak out in front doesn't make you happy, I'm guessing.
Well, look, I mean, we're in, this is, I think, 42 days to go before the election. I mean, this is a super long election for a variety of reasons. So I think, frankly, you know, often the front runner has some real challenges midway through as there's a lot more scrutiny on it. So no, actually, I think where we're excited about is that, what is it, 72% of people think it's time to change the government. And what we've also found is, you know, Ontarians are looking for that choice, and they're, you know, that vote is not secure right now, and it's not. They know they don't want the Liberals, but they haven't really decided who they want to replace the Liberals yet, and so that's very much in flux.
Let me ask you about this though, because you live in Toronto. You used to be on Toronto City Council. I know you love your city. I have a love-hate relationship with Toronto. I'll be up front, but the Ipsos boys broke down the poll by region, and 416 region. This is official Toronto. 45% of voters that they talked to said they backed the Liberals. The PCs and the NDP are well back, almost a 20-point difference there. Do that many Torontonians really like having their pockets picked and being lied to?
Look, I mean, it's kind of hard to explain. One thing that's interesting is if you take the other numbers across the province, you'll see the NDP at 45% in the north.
And we'll get to those in a minute, yeah.
But, you know, Toronto, and in fact, if you go a little bit further over into the Ottawa area, those are the two areas of Liberal strength. And look, it's a little hard to understand, but what's interesting, of course, is even though Toronto is a big city, you were talking about what they call what we call the 416, some 22 ridings. So, you know, just about 1/5 of the province but for the most part, if you look at the rest of the province, the Liberals are in really difficult shape.
Well, so let's look at the area around Toronto now. 905, if we can bring those numbers up. And they're showing a move away from the Liberals for sure. 45 for the PCs, 23 for the NDP, and 29 for the Liberals.
And of course, Brian, the interesting thing about that poll is if you were to look back even the last election, the last couple elections, you'd see the NDP in high single digits or low teens in the 905. So you're seeing a very, you know, quite a lot, almost a doubling of the NDP vote this early in the campaign. So we'll see where all this goes. But what this, I said, I think if you talk to a lot of people, pollsters, I mean, they're saying this election is very much up for grabs. And as I say, I mean, sure, would I like to be at 75%? Yeah, sure. But the reality is that at this point in the election, it's anybody's game here.
All right, let's bring up Eastern Ontario and then Northern Ontario, because these are interesting. You said Eastern Ontario around the Ottawa area is a hotbed of support for the Liberals, and this is showing that may be slipping, if it's accurate. Now, the area where your party does very well, NDP, Northern Ontario, way out in front. It's like Toronto in reverse.
Yeah.
And, you know, you'll elect a couple of Tories up there, maybe, but mostly it's going to be New Democrats, and the Liberals on the ballot are sacrificial lambs. I want to play a clip of Andrea Horwath today, because we opened with Tim Hudak saying you got to find ways to save money, and 1,100 people in the administrative side of Ontario Hydro making $100,000 a year is too much. Here's Horwath, though, saying as well, too much money being spent in Ontario, and we can cut. Roll tape.
Well, again, I mean, I think that when we look at the way that Ontario is organized, the way that the various ministries work, I mean, we certainly believe that there is waste there that can be rooted out and dealt with, and we've made a commitment to looking at that. Absolutely.
Is Horwath hitting the right notes in terms of saying look, I'm not going to cut too much, but yeah, we are going to cut because this province spends too much.
Well, I mean, I should note also, of course, it was Andrea Horwath who called for a capping of the public sector CEO salaries, because some of them run into upwards of $500,000, which I think a lot of people agree is way too much. But look, somebody's going to do the cutting, and it's either going to be a responsible government or it's going to be the bond rating agencies. Don Drummond, who the Liberals had commissioned, projected I think it was a month ago or so, that if this rate of spending continued, we'd be at a deficit of over $30 billion some 5 to 8 years from now. The reality, of course, is regardless, that would never happen, because at some rate they're going to cut the our credit rating, and we're not going to be able to borrow. The Liberals have no idea. They don't know how to make choices. They, this budget that they presented had 70 promises, billions of dollars. Even the people who liked individual components, and I'm a transit guy, that's what the job I work in these days, people liked it, but then when you ask them, their confidence, they didn't actually believe the Liberals would either be able to or would actually deliver on their promises. So, the Liberals really have lost a lot of credibility. They'll promise anything to get elected, and people are beginning to see through it, and now they just have to choose which way they want to go.
We got to wrap it there. You want to keep, Adam, thanks so much. You want to keep up on the headlines? SunNewsNetwork.ca.